back to the Tuesday Tea Podcast. I'm your host, Dominica. Thank you so much for being with me here today. You guys, I'm so excited because Cassie Petrey is here, and I've been following her entrepreneurial journey for a really long time. And when I got an email from her PR team saying that she wanted to come on the show, of course, I was fangirling out. So excited to have you here. Hi, Cassie. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me just do a proper introduction here so that the folks really know a little bit more about you, okay?
Okay, let's do it.
All right. Cassie is the woman behind some of the most iconic artists, social media marketing, including the Backstreet Boys. I'm so excited right now. And Britney Spears, among so many others, you guys. Cassie is the co-founder of CrowdSurf, a leading marketing and music management firm. She herself is a fangirl whose admiration for the Backstreet Boys led her at age 12 to create a newsletter that reached fans worldwide. Then years later, she helped seal the brand's decades-long superstardom by reintroducing them to the next generation of fans. And Cassie is a Forbes 30 Under 30 and Billboard 30 Under 30 recipient, and she is a social media and artist management Hollywood powerhouse. This girl is amazing. So Cassie, I gotta ask, how did you find yourself in this world? First of all, social media marketing, right? Like how and why, and then specifically why the music niche? Tell me.
So everything in my life or my adult life always goes back to the Backstreet Boys.
Love it.
they're like the one thing that's been consistent in my life since I was 12. Love them now, love them then, love them always. And I remember when I was 11, I was on a softball team, and I wasn't super into music at that point. Like I had my TLC, Crazy Sexy Cool CD, and like I think had an average interest in music like other people my age. But what sort of catapulted it is my softball team won like our league championship, and I didn't realize how cool of a prize this was at the time. But our prize, or like our way we celebrated, was we went to a Backstreet Boys concert and had box seats.
Oh my gosh.
Like, can I get that prize now? So I didn't understand. I'd never been to a concert before, so I didn't like understand what any of that meant and what any of this would be like. And I went to the concert, and it was such an amazing experience seeing thousands of people enjoy the same experience, the same song. Everyone's in a great mood, having a good time. Like it was just all around super special. And I kind of fell in love with the music business at that point. And I think from there for several years became like a really big fan of them and started being a serial super fan using what was the main means of digital communication at the time, which was AOL. Right. And I think around the age of 15, I realized there were jobs in music that weren't like the person on stage. And I became obsessed with the idea of working in music from that point on. And when MySpace came into play, I sort of figured out how to marry music and this like digital stuff I was doing as a fan together. And I just think my timing was really lucky on both of them. But it's like it all happened when I was young, but old enough to like get into a record label and work and be helpful. And I'm just grateful for the timing of it all, to be honest. My age, when the Backstreet Boys existed, when social media came into existence, it just all worked out really well for me.
It's incredible. I so appreciate that you acknowledge like, hey, right time, right place. Because I feel like in the marketing industry as a whole, that's a huge part of it. It's just right time, right place. Networking and having a lot of the drive and the passion behind really where you wanted to go, right? And so take me through this journey then, because you've worked directly with them. So how, with the Backstreet Boys and so many others, but specifically with the Backstreet Boys, at what age did you finally get to meet them and then work right along with them?
Well, the journey of meeting them is very different than when I met them. So the first time I actually met the Backstreet Boys as a unit was when I was 15, and I made fake backstage passes in order to accomplish this goal. So it was definitely not above board. I made a fake meet and greet stick-on pass, and it worked, and I got to meet them. I would have just bought one, but at that time in music, like buying meet and greets wasn't a thing. So that was you can only really meet them, especially somebody that famous, if you like won a contest at a radio station or something. So I took destiny into my own hands and figured out how I was going to meet this group. And I met them as a fan many other times throughout the years, but I would say maybe about like 2010 is when we started working with them. I think that's when I was ready to take that leap, because you kind of have that saying, don't meet your heroes.
Sure.
I almost avoided working with them at the beginning because I didn't want that part of my life to be taken away from me. But I
Mhm.
had a really good experience as a fan on one of their tours. And I was like, you know what? This is a good high note to go out on. Let's try the meeting your heroes thing now.
Wow. That's really powerful that you were even thinking that at the time. Like, that's huge. So tell us then which label, because you worked for a record label, or how did that pan out? How did that work in the beginning?
So when I was in college, I was a Warner Music Group college rep,
Wow.
and that through that network, I was able to get introduced to Warner Music Nashville's head of digital.
Sure.
And that's how I got my first like real job working at a record label in social media. And I did that for 3 years. I was in college for 3 years. I worked at the record label for 3 years. And those experiences basically existed at the same time. And I did both of those at the same time. And then when I graduated, my business partner and I decided to start our company, not because we didn't like our job, but because there wasn't even like a job called social media manager yet. This was in 2007. And
Mm-hmm.
we liked what we were doing, but there wasn't really like growth within that role. Like I temped for 3 years. I had a temp hourly job, and I was ready to grow in that aspect of my career. I wanted bigger title, more responsibilities, but there wasn't really an opportunity to grow within that system without leaving this section of the job that I really liked.
Wow. So you've been doing this since 2007 then?
Yes.
Wow, okay. So that's your company, CrowdSurf, since 2007.
Yes.
That's
For
amazing.
16 years.
Wow, that's a long run. I
It
don't.
is.
That's a very long run. I've been in business for 15 years, and I feel like from an agency standpoint, it's hard to do. It's
Yes.
really hard. It's a lot of work. So then how did you start meeting other artists? Was it just like word of mouth and you wanted to get that roster built up? How did that work out?
So luckily when I was at the record label, I really took advantage of building a network of people within the music business, both within the record label and outside of it. And in general, I still hold a lot of those, practices true today in terms of networking. Whenever I travel to a different city, I'm looking through my Facebook, I'm looking through my LinkedIn, I'm looking through my email, making sure I'm maybe meeting people I've emailed with but haven't met in real life, or thinking about people that might be based in that city that would be good to meet with. And I always go into those meetings with no agenda other than to meet somebody. I'm not trying to sell something. I'm not trying to get money. I'm not trying to get free tickets or whatever the agenda item is. I literally just want to meet people in my field. Maybe there's a way I can help. Maybe there's a way they can help me. I don't know, but I go in with a really basic premise of just wanting to know somebody, and that's served me really well throughout my career.
I love that you touched on that piece because for myself as well, I'm constantly looking at building relationships, not the transaction ship. That may come many years down the road, as you know, right? But when you're stepping into a new relationship, you want to cultivate that for a bit, not ask for a thing, especially depending on who they are and what they do, right? That's huge. I think that is one of the key components to success for longevity with an agency.
Yeah, people know when you like are trying to have a quote unquote relationship with them for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And I really am just sort of seeking similar ground and education and connection and friendship through business. That's really like that is my agenda. And when the agendas become more than that is when these sort of networking meetings tend to not go well.
Yeah. And being on the receiving end of that, it just feels gross. Does that ever happen to you? You're just like, this is so gross. Like, I don't know what
Yeah,
this person wants, but it's gross.
yeah, it's like, what do you like? Yeah, it's like, what do you want from me? I mean, sometimes like, listen, there's a time and place. It's like sometimes I'll set up a meeting or new technology comes in and pitches me,
Mm.
they educate me on their platform. But like, I'm okay with that. And I know exactly what that meeting is about. But if somebody from, let's say somebody from that company, wanted to have lunch with me and the whole meeting was about telling me about this platform and trying to sell me on it, that wouldn't be very fun. So
Oh.
it's all about time and place and being clear about intention.
I feel like for the situation you're in, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like because you've built up this incredible brand, your name is everywhere. Like, of course, now that I've like researched you, you're in my feed everywhere. Like whoever's doing, I don't know if it's your team or you're doing it or whoever, but your marketing's phenomenal. And so it's essentially selling your service way ahead of time before you even talk to clients, right? It's like, look at like the credibility factors you have going on, right?
Yeah.
Do you find that when you go into meetings with like new potential clients, is it like they are ready to work with you and already like sold on what you have going on?
Sometimes, but some of them make you work really hard for it.
Really? Is it specific with the music industry?
I think so. And if the artist is big, I understand they have to do their due diligence. But I always think it's really funny when there's like an artist that nobody's heard of, has like moderate funding, and they're making all the biggest agencies like really try to roll out the red carpet and compete for them. I'm like, uh, I'm not really interested in taking this meeting because I always hate being in the position where this happens a lot, I think, with record labels and with managers where they don't want an artist to just have one option in terms of agencies, but they have sort of who they have in mind they want that artist to hire. And so they're throwing other proposals in the mix for the sake of like covering themselves to say that they didn't just give you one proposal and told you to hire somebody, but that that's why you're there and you're not going to get hired. And I try to avoid those situations as often as possible. And somebody's like, we're taking a lot of meetings and looking at a lot of agencies in town, and I'm like, that's cool. I don't need to be in the mix. And it sounds like you already have plenty of options. It's just a waste of my time. And I'm usually just there as a safety net and not as a main contender. And I don't want to waste my time doing that.
Totally. Or waste their time. It's like, hey, not a good fit. Like,
But if they already know who they're hiring, just hire them. Don't make a bunch of other agencies go through and jump through hoops because you don't want your artist to get mad at you for making a recommendation later down the road.
totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's just bad business. Can you share with us, like, what would you say is the top, we'll say top two most memorable success stories that you've experienced or like notable campaigns that you've worked on so far?
It's tough. I think I'll just name some because I don't know if I have like one that outranks
Okay.
another, but I think that the one that's recent that I thought was cool, and this is little, but it's a little win, is we got both Britney Spears and Backstreet Boys to join Threads pretty early and worked with them to help come up with a cool, like, sort of first thread post.
Oh, you
And
helped with that. Oh, that's great. Ah,
yeah, so I'm like the person who's like advocating, like, you have to post today. It's important. You got to do it early. And I'm really glad that I was kind of crazy about that because they ended up getting a lot of press coverage, including Threads themselves on Instagram. Actually, like, they picked like six, all-star launches, and
carousels.
two of the six were from that campaign, so, or from that initiative, in terms of say something witty, get on there early. So it was cool to, kind of be like, yeah, Threads is posting their celebrities and announce, and I have like two out of the six spots. Like that's pretty cool. So I thought that was kind of a win and a fun moment. And let's see, another sort of fun thing. I mean, in general, I've worked on a lot of different residencies in Vegas, like from Britney and Backstreet, and then we also do some influencer marketing for residencies like Usher and Miranda Lambert. And I just think in general it's been really fun to be a part of making residencies so relevant in pop culture. When Britney launched her Vegas residency years ago, it kind of, you weren't seeing like sort of more modern day artists do things like that. And it's so cool to have seen so many major artists in pop culture have these Vegas moments now. And I feel like it's been really fun to be a part of so many of those.
That's so great. Have you met Brittany?
I have.
What's she like?
She's in person. She's she's pretty reserved. And I think a lot of people talk about this, but she's very kind, very sweet, very reserved. I haven't spent a lot of time with her. I've just done in person. I've just done, sort of shorter meetings about digital marketing initiatives, and she's been nothing but pleasant and kind.
Nice. Within the music industry, in your experience, does it come with a heightened level of anxiety going into these meetings with these specific types of individuals?
I think that there's a lot of meetings I've done where I was like, I cannot believe that I am invited and sitting in this meeting right now. I would say one of the most surreal pitch meetings I've ever had was pitching Steven Tyler. That was just
Whoa. Whoa.
like directly, like that was wild just to sit and be speaking to this icon of a human directly, and he's everything in person that like he is on stage and he was on American Idol and he is in real life. And doing a pitch meeting like that, like, I think that I do fortunately think I rise to the occasion in big, in big meetings like that, where the sense of like I'm familiar with some of the people that I'm pitching and I've looked up to them, or they're famous and I like their music, or whatever the case may be. I feel like I actually freak out a little bit more about the business people I idolize versus
Mm,
the celebrities or the artist.
mm.
But fortunately, I think that adrenaline actually makes me more focused and perform better in those situations. And I'm grateful, because I would be sad if I performed worse when those meetings mean so much to me.
Totally. Yeah. I love so much just reading your story in all these different publications. And I just admire what you built and that you're still doing it. Because I have seen so many people, they get to this level and then they just burn out, just hardcore burnout. And then they just, whether they sell the agency, they're over it, they do something completely different, get in real estate, options, whatever it might be. Have you ever experienced that?
I feel burned out a lot. I think we all do. I was actually having a conversation with somebody about how I think women in their 30s in the music business, a lot of them exit for various reasons that I completely understand, whether it's burnout, family. It's hard to see you get passed over
Hmm.
for promotion because of your gender or because of nepotism or whatever. One more time, like I totally
Yeah.
understand where you're at. And if you can be happy doing something else, I do think you should go do that,
Mm.
because this job is really hard. And the only reason I think I'm still doing it is because I literally can't think of anything else I could do that would make me happy. There is no other option for me. Is where,
Mm.
I kind of sit and where I'm at. And I think something that has kind of helped me sustain my interest is realizing that there are going to be a lot of moments where I have FOMO because I can't be in like 5 cities at the same time and go to 5 shows at the same time and be in 5 meetings at the same time and have 100 great clients. And I can't be present for all those things. So I think accepting that I do have to pick and choose the good moments that I get and give some of the good moments to other people and delegate good moments is kind of helped me make
Mm.
it through and pace myself, because I would be even more fried if I was like, okay, I want to go to this show in LA tonight, but I really want to go to this one in New York tomorrow. Sometimes I just have to accept, yes, it would be really cool that I could be there. And yes, the artist would appreciate it. And yes, it would be something I probably remember for the rest of my life, but
Mm.
my night here in LA is good too. And that's okay.
I love that you said delegate good moments.
Yes,
That's super, super powerful. I talk a lot about the importance of having a team and building a team and letting them have that freedom and that runway when you can't be there. So I love that we have that in common of, yes, I really want to be there and that FOMO is there, but delegate that sweet experience that someone else on your team can have, right?
absolutely.
That's huge. So let me ask you, just diving into social media marketing, when you mentioned threads as being like part of your like winning campaigns, do you think threads will be around very long? Or
I,
do you think
I,
it's just a drop in the bucket?
it could be either. I really don't know. But right now, people are still there. And if people are still there, I'm going to keep using it until they're not. I like to take everything day by day, because we kind of went through this sort of drama of like, is TikTok going to be gone tomorrow or not because of the government? And my
Mhm.
philosophy on this stuff is I can't control it. People are there today. I'm going to use it today. And if it's gone tomorrow, I'll go where people are at tomorrow. But my goal is in social media is in order to be social, there have to be other people there. So I go where the people are and I help take my artists there.
What are some common mistakes that you see artists make with their branding when it comes to social media marketing?
Copying other people is the main thing. Trying to be like somebody else who's being successful. Like I feel like so many singer-songwriters are trying to be funny like Lewis Capaldi now because he's had a lot of good moments on TikTok and other video platforms. But that's Lewis Capaldi isn't like manufacturing being funny. That's just like who he is. I don't think he could like not be funny, like it's just a part of who he is. And watching other people try to like manufacture those moments can be pretty cringy to watch. So I think people trying to chase what moments of success other people have had is the biggest mistake I see people make.
It's a solid one. I'm curious about your approach to the challenge, right, of keeping up with the ever-changing social media landscape, especially with these big names. Do you see 3 steps ahead, 5 steps ahead, like what you are thinking could potentially happen down the road? Like you mentioned TikTok, right? The government's going to shut it down, we think. Who knows? Maybe it's obviously still here. Like, how do you navigate working these big campaigns on behalf of the artist?
So I do feel like I'm good at kind of seeing what social patterns are going to look like in the future. I remember when I saw Musically, which eventually became TikTok or merged with TikTok. I remember seeing Musically in 2016 and I'm like, yep, this is it. Everyone needs to get on it. It's going to be huge. It's going to be important. I could pull emails of me like pitching this to all my clients in like 2016, 2017. Please get on Musically. Please let me run a profile for you. And so many people said no because they looked at it as like the 14-year-old lip syncing app. But a lot of the artists that did let us board them at that time, they ended up doing well. They ended up, when TikTok launched, they already had 1 million followers because they've been building it forever. And for some people, it eventually led to success for a song and record deals because they boarded that platform early. So I love being an early adopter. There's so many advantages to it in the social media space. So, I think that's really important. But in terms of navigating bigger names, that's a little different. There isn't necessarily as big of an upside for them being on every platform as maybe, it would be for a developing artist. So everyone's a little different. You have to think about what's best for that artist and their goals.
Sure. Is there ever like a strategy where you're trying to think of, okay, if TikTok does go away tomorrow, we have this in place, sort of like a contingency plan or a backup plan for any artists?
So fortunately, I think we already, I think most of our clients already have profiles on all the places that I would, consider backup plans. Because if you think about it, let's say TikTok closed tomorrow, it's like like you're on a street, the restaurant closed, you're going to go to the restaurant next door if you're hungry. So, they're going to there's probably gonna be more traffic on Instagram, probably going to be more traffic on YouTube Shorts, other places that we're luckily already maintaining on behalf of those artists. So if TikTok goes tomorrow, which I don't think it will, by the way, but if it did, it wouldn't really stress me out that much. In fact, it would probably excite me, not because I don't like TikTok, but because I like sort of dealing with like kind of new situations and seeing how people react to them. I find it exciting. So I would be excited if something disappeared all of a sudden. We had to analyze like how they're gonna, how it's gonna affect their daily usage on their phone, or a new platform comes into the mix. Like, how do we incorporate that into our artist marketing plans? I live for solving those kind of problems.
Awesome. I can tell you get excited.
It's fun. I love it.
It's so great. Are you an artist yourself, a music artist?
Absolutely not.
Really?
No. That would be funny. I am not. I'm like notoriously bad at it, actually.
Really?
Something I used to do for my friends as a joke is I would record a bad version of me singing a song like on my like GarageBand and send it to them, and it would just make them so happy because it was so horrible.
Gosh. Okay,
Yeah.
well then if you actually were to be an artist, would it be singing? Would that be your instrument of choice, voice?
I mean, I can kind of, and by kind of like very kind of, I can play I can play like campfire style guitar. Like I know my chords. I can, somebody tells me chords, I can play them. I can, play them roughly at the right time.
Nice.
That's so I would say guitar is like my best shot at any success.
All right.
Definitely not voice,
Mm.
and definitely not anything like artist in the sense of painting or drawing. I'm really horrible at that as well.
Well, you know what you love, and it sounds like you landed in the perfect space. You said you're from Nashville originally? Is that
I'm
right?
from I lived in I feel like I kind of grew up in Nashville. I went to college in Nashville, but I'm actually from Kentucky.
Okay, nice. I almost went to Belmont, and
Yep.
I is that where you went? Where
I
did you
went
go?
to Middle Tennessee State, but
Okay,
I'm very
nice.
familiar with Belmont. Yeah.
All right. Well, I went to visit in mid-September, and that was a big mistake. It was so hot.
Yeah, it is.
The humidity was like, it's so cool, and Music Row was amazing, and I love being downtown. It's such a cool vibe, but I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Do you feel like your job picked you, or do you feel like you worked your ass off to get to where you are?
I mean, I do feel like I had to work really hard to acquire some of the skills I needed to do this job. A
Sure.
lot of the things that are required to do this job definitely did not come naturally to me, like
Mm,
speaking. And,
really?
I remember like when I used to have to give presentations in high school, like my voice would just give out because I was so nervous and so stressed about it. So the fact that I can be in conference rooms and do pitches now or moderate a panel or do a podcast is I see how hard I work to overcome that. But I knew that the reward was greater than the fear that I had of that, and I had to work through it, even if it's really scary and really hard for me sometimes.
Nice. I always say that if we're not at least a little bit nervous or a little bit anxious, then it's not worth doing something. So I admire the fact that you worked really hard to get to where you are. And congratulations on all your success. It's amazing. Like you've
Thank you. I appreciate that.
accomplished a lot. I truly admire you. Now, with your company, CrowdSurf, is it only for artists? Is it only music industry based, or do you offer your services to other people?
It is mostly music artists. We do have some comedians and some other types of entertainers, but I would say it's people who are talent of some sort that have fans, I would say is our audience. And we have taken on other types of projects over the years. We do have a lot of music adjacent stuff, like we work on socials for some record labels or some companies that are about artists. But I would say if we get too far away from entertainment or music, I just don't really have the right staff to work on that. People want to work at our company because they want to work in entertainment, so it's hard to take on clients outside of that.
Well, if the listeners want to follow you on social, what's the best way for them to connect?
I'm mostly active personally on Instagram and LinkedIn, and it's just my name, Cassie, Cassie Petrey, Petrey. And I encourage you to send me a DM. I don't post on main feed too often. But I am on there every day, like in my DMs, commenting and engaging with other people's stories and posts and that sort of thing. So if you want to talk, I'm a big like believer in using social networks. It doesn't always have to be on the public stage. You can socialize one to one, and I'm a really big fan of that. So connect with me that way if you want to talk about something.
I'll be sure to put links as well in the show notes. It's such a joy to meet you and chat with you. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, guys, that is it for this episode. I'll see you next week. Bye.